soil is drier,
Not
definitely not saturated, it's not glistening. If it's in drier conditions, we have to use a spray bottle, spray it, because we want to have it in moist conditions. If the soil's too dry, it's not going to give us the right color. When you're using your monthly color chart, it's got to be moist. It can't be dry. That's something we forget a lot. And if the sun was out, and I had sunglasses on, I'd be taking off my sunglasses because that can skew what you're seeing, especially the colors. When you're looking at the soil beds, a lot of times you're going to break them apart like that and basically see on the soil faces if you've got sandy redox, or if there's maybe the soil's washed down through here, you might start to see some layers or little inclusions where the soil's been turned over. When we do, like say, pine plantations, that soil's been turned over so many times, and doing soil picking there is a nightmare because the soil's just it's so mixed up. You don't have layers anymore. You don't have those natural horizons. So we can tell if the soil's been disturbed a lot of times by breaking this apart. It's not immediately obvious. By breaking it apart, you can see right along those faces. So I'm not seeing sandy redox, no muck, it's not dark enough. This is not a wetland soil. So, and also with the vegetation, I'm not seeing any more of the high up here. Street day is below us, flat day is below us. You've got the street ballberry.
Cycle turn.
But it's not really dominant anymore. It's dropping out. You're starting to see some of you guys saw those yellow flowers on the vines on the boardwalk up the Yosemite grass. Yellow jessamine. We've got these yellow jessamine here. That's the facultator. Starting to see more of the grapevine, still facultated for us. I'm not sure if this is out of season, but generally salt tomato is going to be on the upper side of the line. A lot of people use that as an indicator when they're trying to find that break. If the salt tomato is on the left and not on the right, they're going to be kind of going right down that line there. And so I'd probably put it where the consultant put that line somewhere in between us. We're only talking about 20 feet difference from where that very wet spot was. So meeting in the middle probably was sort of a move along that line on that typographic vegetative break.
Is that a private consultant?
It's a private consultant, yeah. They do the vast majority of the work. Now when UWF, about 10 years ago, I verified a line out here. UWF hired the consultant, paid them, and we just came out and checked their work. That's the way it would happen for developers for Walmart, or if you just went forward.
So essentially, ministry is that way you say the man really goes and go whatever. So since we're now in the process of doing kind of a moving on, isn't it really just going to be for a while like have a walnut like here and a wetland like here in this area?
Absolutely not, yeah.
So really moving on into the world like right up in there.
It's not really so much about what we want, it's recognizing what the impact is going to be and weighing those into our decisions. Yeah. And if you have a big retail store right up next to a wetland line, which happens all the time, and a lot of times you get into the wetlands and you get a permit from it. And if they go right up to that wetland line, there's nothing we can do that. We don't have any jurisdiction in the wetlands. But if they approach into the wetlands and need a permit from us, we issue a permit. As one of the ways we evaluate it, we're going to say, okay, the limits of your impact don't just stop here where your limits of your fill are. You're going to have impacts beyond that. And we're going to consider a secondary impact that they need to compensate for. So we're going to look at the big picture of there's not going to be wildlife habitat right in the backyard next to the dumpster here. Maybe not trees or something. But a lot of stuff is going to be altered from maybe 100 feet out, maybe 200 feet out. And we've got to look at that and count that towards the overall impact that they have to compensate for. Well, we do environmental assessments. EIS gets done rarely. We do a couple of years without the whole Jacksonville district. So we do environmental assessments. It's mostly a smaller version of an EIS.
Okay.
But that's one of the things we look at is the secondary impact that you're referring to. We're going to lose these wetlands. They're going to become completely gone because there's going to be a parking lot on top of them. Yeah. We'll have no longer going to have any wetland function. But there's also going to be those secondary impacts that extend further out into the wetlands that we know are going to happen, and the applicant has to compensate for that. So we do a lot of mitigation.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's really interesting.
we sit in the middle, but we evaluate, I mean, we're paid to evaluate the impact of those and see if you can't avoid these impacts anymore because you have to have your project right here. And if that's the case, we agree with you on that. And what have you done to minimize these impacts? Can you gain sounds like maybe adding a buffer around some of the other wetland areas? That's something we push for a lot.
But are there agencies and regulations like at the county and state level that might require that or support
Absolutely.
additional anyway?
Well, that's just what Sean was talking about for Escambia County, and actually that was about, I don't know, 5 years ago. Several of us went in and testified to the council what was the importance of buffers for wildlife. And soon after that, that's when they passed the buffer. But it's only for Escambia County.
Yeah.
It doesn't apply in Generation County at all. So the problem with these extra regulations on top of the federal regulations is they're very spotty.
Well, the next person one's Walton County has to
Yeah.
at the federal level.
Yeah, so that's what helps at the federal level is unifying, or even at the state level.
ACE doesn't set the regulations; they just comply with them, right?
We have a lot of input. I mean, we solicit input. We just had new comments issued that'll be out next month, maybe this month, and all. But we get a lot of input from the public and all. But it's not just us. We don't just make our own regulations.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. That it's federal.
Right.
You comply with federal regulations.
Congress makes the laws, and we basically enforce them all.
Right. So you could say, hey, look, farther BMPs might be better for this, but you can't tell somebody, well, we think this, so you have to comply with it. We have to follow the federal regulations.
Exactly. Not to get into the political side of it, but there are many interests that would not want us to have any more jurisdiction than we have now, or to require that there's a buffer in every project. There's a lot of people who would not want that because that's less land they could use, less money they can make, good, bad, or indifferent. I understand where they're coming from, but that's their position, and they have a lot of, they're very vocal about that. So allowing us to require buffers on every project, that's probably why some of that hasn't happened. But again, we're in the middle. We can look at, these are going to be your impacts, and we know you're going to impact this. We know you want to do that. How are you going to offset it? And that's where a lot of our negotiations happen. Once we get to the point where we understand you have to build on this corner, on this highway, because you've got as many cars going by, we accept that. But what are you going to do to offset these impacts if you can't avoid? And that's where we get into mitigation, where they go off and hopefully enhance other wetlands, and maybe buy credits in mitigation banks. And that's a whole nother.
About mitigation, what's your process? How do you pick the site and then how do you develop it? You see what I'm saying?
For mitigation or
for mitigation.
Yeah, they submit the plan to us for us to review.
Okay. But basically, let's say they're trying to mitigate a site that doesn't have hydro storage. Would they have to bulldoze down to get to a certain water depth?
So many different ways they can do it.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Lots of ways.
So
that would be one way if an area is not wet enough and they can rehydrate.
Created a
But yeah,
discharge.
and we can talk about that more in class because I know it's a huge issue. But yeah, I mean, he's a permitting agency basically. You're not, but you work for a permitting agency. But as part of giving them a permit to allow them to build on the wetlands, what he's basically saying is then they require them to do something else. Mitigate. And so there's lots of different levels to that. You can create, you can buy and preserve, and what if I left out?
You can enhance, rehabilitate. There's all sorts of things. We have an actual mitigation rule that spells out the different options we have, or that an applicant has to mitigate.
So I guess they